Hello and welcome to Let's Talk. I am your host, DJ Kelly, and my co-host is Hal William.
Thank you, Kelly.
You're very welcome, and today we have a very special guest. He is the project leader of high-speed broadband for Southern Cuyahoga County, a former member of Cuyahoga County Parks Commission, a former member of County Water Quality Management Agency, a former Cuyahoga County Legislative Chairman, and he is a representative of Cuyahoga County, and he is a former dean of Cuyahoga Community College. Whew! Please welcome Keith Batman. And in honor of your last name, my co-host Todd and I would like to present you with this Batman symbol. Wow, that was a mouthful. Woo!
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
I am Batman.
The logo is on your Facebook page. 3 years ago, when you were running for legislative chair, the lack of internet access was a huge issue for you. Why is that?
Well, my interest and concern about internet access, particularly for rural areas, actually began when I was at Cuyahoga Community College. At that time, I was the dean at the college when we first started internet programming. And it became very clear that internet programming, internet access, was going to be critically important to all residents in Cuyahoga County, but that the need for internet in rural areas was a particular problem. Lots of rural areas at that time, and still today, they do not have high-speed internet. It's impossible to take online courses without high-speed internet. That's true at college level, it's true in high school, it's true in middle school, and increasingly true for elementary school. So educationally, it's critically important that people have access to internet. Since that time, this was a number of years ago, since that time it's become even more important because so many things are accessed through the internet. The social issues, economic issues, political issues, it's the way people get news, it's the way they get information. There's so many things that impact our lives. And so I was very concerned that rural areas would be left behind. That's why I first became involved. And quite frankly, I remained involved because not much has changed. It's still critically important. There's still a need. There's still areas that are underserved.
I totally agree with you. Even here at the studio with us filming and the things that we do, our internet here is absolutely terrible. I mean, we have dial-up.
Really?
It's terrible. Seriously.
Yes. Dial-up is terrible. I'm surprised. This is one of the few areas then in Auburn that doesn't have high speed. And there are still some areas, even in the city, which is shocking.
And we should have high speed because with the amount of things that we do in the studio and the amount of projects that we do, I mean, I'm surprised we don't have high speed.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
How did you first learn of this problem?
Well, as I mentioned, I think my first introduction was probably when I was at the community college, but it became pretty clear. I was elected to the supervisor in the town of Scipio in 2013. No, it was before that, 2007. I lose track of time at my age. And at that point, it became clear that there was a general problem, not just with education access, but a general problem with the internet access in rural areas. So I first then put together a group of people to begin to look at the issue for Scipio, which was my concern at that point. And I became increasingly aware of the problem. So that was kind of the combination of those two were my first exposure to the problem, I think.
As the leader of high-speed broadband, did you create that, and what is your mission to accomplish? What are you trying to accomplish with this program?
Yeah. Yes. It grew out of when I was first elected supervisor. Put together a group of Scipio people to look at the problem, and we began discussing what the alternatives were in terms of bringing high-speed internet to Scipio. In that process, we discovered that it was a general problem in all of southern Cuyahoga County. We've since learned it's a problem in much of upstate. But at that time, we were focused really on southern Cuyahoga County. There were groups in Genoa and Niles that were also interested in working on the issues. So we kind of got together with them under the leadership in Niles of their supervisor at the time, Ricky Slagle, and in Genoa under the leadership at the time and still of Lori Sellen Gross, and formed kind of a southern Cuyahoga group. Our purpose was very simple, and that was to bring high-speed internet connections to the southern part of Cuyahoga County.
Who are the people that suffer from this?
Yeah, I think in general, everyone that does not have high-speed internet suffers. It's such an important aspect of life at this point. The students that take courses online, obviously, but even students that aren't taking courses online, just students that are attempting to study something, need to go to the internet to research, to get information, to communicate with one another in most cases. So educationally, at every level, it's a terrible disadvantage if people don't have high-speed internet. Economically, it becomes increasingly important for businesses to be connected because there are lots of things they do. Just as students need to access for information, so do businesses. Many people, increasing numbers of people, work from home. You can't do that if you don't have high-speed internet. So that eliminates a whole area of options for people that live in rural areas if they don't have high-speed internet. Socially, the social media is becoming a huge way that people get information about politics, news, the media. It's a way people communicate, share pictures. We all know that, and so it doesn't need elaboration. On and on and on. So if you take virtually any aspect of modern living, if you don't have access to high-speed internet, you're at a disadvantage and you suffer. So I would say it's absolutely everyone who does not have access suffers.
What are your ideas to solve this?
Well, I'm going to be honest. If I actually knew exactly how to do it, I guess it would be solved. So I think it's a long, difficult process, but certainly, I think public involvement, continuing to pressure all of us to do more, is important. I think I may have mentioned, the governor's impetus to pump money into into companies to encourage them to expand into rural areas is critically important because, as said many times, it's a business, and there has to be a way to make the public policy position that everyone deserves high-speed internet. There has to be a way that makes that attractive to businesses so that they're just not doing it, but they're active participants. Right. So the program that the governor has put in place is critically important. I think that will move forward. I think the more people that get and have high-speed internet, the more people will realize how important it is and what they miss when they don't have it.
Has any progress been made?
Yeah, I mean, we've made a lot of progress. Now, it's been a lot of years, and we've worked at it off and on this whole time. But from the time we began this effort back in 2007 until today, we have most parts of southern Cuyahoga County that have at least reasonably high-speed internet. That one of the problems with this, by the way, is that the definition of broadband changes over the years because as more and more people get it, then what used to be high speed is now just okay speed. So that like our project in southern Cuyahoga County gets about 6 megabits down speeds. The governor's program is calling for 100, with 25 everywhere. So those are big differences. However, we now have large portions of southern Cuyahoga County that are covered. There's in the governor's most recent initiatives, there are areas through the TDL phone company in Port Byron area, the Port Byron, Montezuma, a number of points north, are getting very high speeds in rural areas. There's a company out of Syracuse called New Visions that has gotten an $11 million grant to expand service in the mid-northern Cuyahoga County and then coming down the center of the center of the county in a corridor to serve with high speed, very high speed, 100 megabits speeds, to serve Locke, Genoa, Moravia, Summerhill, and a couple of other places. And that's scheduled to be done by the end of 2018. From there, they will then expand to other areas in both southern as well as mid and northern Cuyahoga County. So a lot of progress has been made, a lot of progress.
Now, Keith, I have to ask, while you were dean of Cuyahoga Community College, why in the world would you take on all these other leadership roles? I mean, don't you think it's a little busy for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. It was a little busy for me. But I think fundamentally, I mean, I've always felt my whole life that it's important to be involved in the community and give back to the community. And I think it's important for everyone to do that. We're fundamentally social people, social animals, and which means that we live in groups. And part of the thing that we all need to do is to be part of our communities by giving back to our communities. I was in a position to give back in ways that perhaps some other people weren't, and I thought it was my responsibility to do so.
Well, we here at Let's Talk would like to thank Keith the Batman for being here with us. It was a pleasure and honor to interview you. And thank you for all that you do. And we will see you next time on Let's Talk.